Technical foul. Yeah. Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Teed Up. I'm David.
I'm Justin.
As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's staying safe out there. You know, getting closer and closer to this thing coming to an end, this whole pandemic thing coming to an end. If everyone can just get their stuff together. And you see this by sports being back, particularly basketball. Just came back.
Mm-hmm.
The official games, Justin, just started.
Last night.
You know, the ones that actually matter. Not that we didn't appreciate the hell out of those scrimmages. Yeah. Although the exhibition games were nice and we really appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to Adam Silver for just doing a great job.
Fantastic job setting this all up. Worked out well so far, and I think it will work out for the rest of the playoffs and hopefully all the way to the championship, assuming the players stick to it and don't go out to any clubs or bring anybody else into the bubble like some Marlins players.
Yeah, the Marlins players, they kind of ruined that whole Philly series for us Philly fans at least.
And they ruined baseball.
They did, yeah. They ruined it. And then also Lou Will had a pretty big stare going to a gentleman's club to get some wings.
Yes, he did.
And do nothing else at a gentleman's club. Some very good wings. We gotta go to that place and just what's it called? Magic City?
Magic City.
We gotta go to Magic City and try those. Somebody go to Magic City and try the wings.
Yes. I want to know how good they are.
I want to know how good they are too. Because that's just they must be good wings for a gentleman's club. But anyway. So the first two games that were back were the one that I was anticipating the most was the Jazz and the Pelicans.
Oh, of course. Best game of the night.
Yeah, best game of the night. There was the Lakers and Clippers, which we'll get to that. I guess we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
But we did actually want to talk about the all jokes aside. We did want to talk about the Pelicans and the Jazz first, because this whole situation with Zion, Justin, it's very weird. You know, everyone's been calling Zion. Everyone's been overhyping him, in my opinion, and everyone's been calling him the next LeBron and stuff like that. And he only plays 15 minutes last night. Drops 13 points, 1 assist, 0 rebounds. What are your thoughts on this? Having the key guy of the Pelicans only playing 15 minutes, playing role player minutes, playing bench player minutes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Zion is just coming back from the bubble, so I can see why he's only playing 15 minutes, but honestly, it just doesn't make sense. The Pelicans are outside the playoffs, trying to force a playoff series with the Grizzlies or Pelicans or whoever heads up with the 8th seed. And you're playing your best player only 15 minutes, like, I think it was just poor coaching by Alvin Gentry. Like, I just don't understand that part of it. I mean, how are you only going to play your best player 15 minutes, and you're not even going to save any of those minutes for the end of the game when it was close? Like, I just think that was terrible. I guess it's time management, I guess it would be called for that situation. I don't know. Kind of like the Andy Reid, I guess, of basketball with clock management, just poor clock management there. Because how are you only playing him 15 minutes and you're not going to save any of those minutes for the last couple minutes of the game when it's a close game like that? Because it was actually a really good basketball game to watch, especially for the first game back, just seeing how close it was. But I just thought it was poor coaching on Alvin Gentry's part there. And as for his play was very good on the offensive end, but he did look a little out of shape, wasn't really hustling as hard as I thought he should have been, and he just wasn't as aggressive getting boards, and he was just kind of lazy on the defensive end, I thought. So overall, I was just kind of, I guess, satisfied with it, but I wasn't very pleased by his performance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody was pleased by his performance either. I mean, I think the one thing that stood out to me from that game was Brandon Ingram's performance. 23 points, 8 rebounds. He did a phenomenal job. He looked very good out there. You saw him getting praise from Kevin Durant, and just overall across the league, he was getting praise for that.
Well, I have a thing on that. Brandon Ingram in the first half was playing lights out, right? People were saying Brandon Ingram's actually a true superstar. But he ended up ending up like 7 for 19 from the field and 2 for 7 from the threes, and really didn't do anything in the beginning of the second half up until the end of the game. So I was actually a little disappointed on his all-around game, but he definitely did show spurts of, like, that first half was very good, and he did look like a true superstar, but he didn't keep it up for the entire game. So I was a little disappointed in that, because I think for him to take the next step to become a true superstar, like people are saying he has the potential to be, he needs to be able to play a completely full game through 4 quarters and be like elite for 4 quarters. You can't be taking quarters off like that.
Right, but I'm, at the same time, I'm not expecting him to be
Oh
come
no.
out, come out and play like a superstar because this is the first year that he's actually played, dare I say, good. I mean,
Hmm.
consistently good
Yeah.
for the first time in his career. I think most of that ending had to do with just Alvin Gentry. I don't think he's that good of a coach for New
Hmm.
Orleans. And you've seen it. He was partially the reason Anthony Davis left, in my opinion, just because he's only been there for 4 years, and you see the progress that the Pelicans have made hasn't been that good, obviously.
Hmm.
So I think coaching had a big thing to do with it. I don't think he can close out games, so that was a big thing to do with it. But I think people overhype Zion way too much. Calling him the next LeBron, calling him the face of the 2020s when he's only played 19 games, and I think his stats are only like 23, 5, and 6, which is still very good.
20 games now that he's got the playoff game in there, but
20 games that he's got this.
all the Zion fanboys will be counting that 20th game. So now,
Yeah, but
if you say 19, they'll come in with this stupid argument saying, "Oh, it's not 19,
it's
20 games."
it's 20 now. It's like, shut up, dude. you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
like to call him the next LeBron is just ridiculous. Me personally, I think his ceiling is probably Julius Randle.
It's a hot take.
It's a very hot take. I know it is, but I just when I watch him, and honestly, I could look back at this in 2025 and be completely wrong, and people could clown me for it. But in my opinion, I don't think his ceiling is that high.
That's interesting because I think right now he resembles a lot of Julius Randle, but I think assuming he develops more in his game, I think he ends up being more like a Blake Griffin type player. He's got all the media hype like Blake Griffin had. He's got the same body type. Randle does have the same body type as well, but I feel like Randle just doesn't have the hype behind him that Zion did, and Blake Griffin kind of had that hype with all those cool dunks, just like Zion does. And I think they're gonna have the same issue. Zion and Griffin just can't stay healthy, and I think that's gonna be Zion's
Mm-hmm.
problem throughout his career. And I think that's just gonna, unless he does slim down somehow and lose some weight, I don't know, just get pressure off those knees because I don't know if those knees will definitely hold up for him there. So I agree with you. I think he's overhyped, but I think the Julius Randle comparison might be a little too hot of a take there. I think it's a little extreme. I think Blake Griffin's a more in the middle guy that you can compare him to. So you're not comparing him to LeBron, but you're also not comparing him to Randle. I think you're comparing him more, in my opinion, a more fair comparison would be a Blake Griffin.
That's not a
Maybe
bad.
Charles Barkley.
That's not a bad comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Julius Randle. I'm not saying he's going to be like Kwame Brown. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Julius
Julius Randle's a very good player.
Randle's a great player.
Mm-hmm.
But to call him the next LeBron in the face of the 2020s, I mean, have you seen this guy, the small forward for the Mavericks from the Euro League, Mr. Luka Doncic? Have you seen that shooting guard from Atlanta, Trae Young?
Mm-hmm.
So
There's a lot of good players out there.
have you seen that 6'10" point guard from the 76ers?
Ben Simmons.
Benjamin, Fresh Prince.
He's shooting threes now.
He's shooting threes now, which I'm very proud of him for. Really hope he develops that jump shot. I'm really glad that he's getting like mental help for that because I do think that is a mental issue. That's what I think happened with Markelle Fultz. I think it was all in his head. I don't think it was an injury.
I think Fultz was definitely more of a physical injury. My theory here is, and this could be totally wrong. I think what happened was he got into a motorcycle accident, and it was against his contract to be riding on a motorcycle. This is a theory that's been out there. So he kind of tried to cover it up and didn't really get treatment for it and just kind of let it go and ended up turning into a very severe injury there because we saw him hit the jump shots and his jumper looked fine in the summer league games. Then by the regular season, his jumper was gone. So I think there was a little shoulder injury there, maybe a motorcycle crash or accident or something happened there, and they tried to cover it up so that people didn't know. And since then, it was really physical, but then it got to a mental stage. I don't think his was really mental. Ben Simmons is purely a mental thing. Because we see Ben Simmons shoot the ball in practice and stuff. It's not like he can. I think it's more mental. Like he wants to only do what he knows he's good at. He doesn't want to take risks.
He doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of especially a hostile crowd like the Philadelphia. Fans.
Yeah.
But I think I think that's why being in this bubble is great for him because he doesn't have to play in front of fans. The only people he has to play in front of is his team, the opposing team, and some of the players that come to watch them.
Yeah.
So
Did you see the players last night? You saw like DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry were there.
I think that was pretty cool.
I like that. I like how the players can go watch. I think that's a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, because what else are they gonna do? Sit in their room and play Xbox?
Mm-hmm.
I
Joel
don't
Embiid.
know.
That's all he does.
Shout out to Joel Embiid, by the way.
Best center in basketball.
Best center in basketball, and it's not even debatable. Debating
Mm-hmm.
Jokic is just ridiculous, and you're just a hater.
I agree.
Like,
Couldn't
it,
say
like
it better.
it shouldn't be that big of an argument. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it really shouldn't be an argument. I mean, I'm sure Embiid beats him in a lot of stats. I'm sure Embiid is just a stronger player. I think he's got a better jump shot. I think he's more dominant in the paint. No bias at all whatsoever.
Mm.
I truly believe. Yeah, I truly think Embiid's a better player than Jokic.
I agree with you on that. Couldn't say any better myself.
Mm-hmm. So let us know what you think about this whole Zion situation. Let us know what you think about my supposedly hot take. I didn't know it was that hot. That's just my
Very hot, in my opinion. And I'm not even a big Zion fan, so I think the Zion fans will think it's a very, very hot take.
I didn't think it was that hot, and I apologize. But next game that was that same night, which the one we were pretty much all looking forward to. Nobody really cared about the Jazz and the Pelicans. I mean, people watched them because it was the first real basketball game since March, so people were still going to watch them. But the Clippers and the Lakers, and a certain man from a certain city in Ohio that starts with Ak and ends with Run, with the first name Le, that starts with Le and ends in Bron. A certain 35-year-old with fine wine, he gets better with age, hit a game winner against a certain man who has a weird laugh.
It wasn't a game winner over him. He missed the game winner over him. He got the putback and scored it, though.
Excuses.
He missed the game winner over Kawhi. He just got the rebound because Doc Rivers is an idiot and doesn't know how to coach, apparently.
Excuses. There's nothing you can tell me that will change my mind. Those are just excuses.
Really? Because if I'm watching that game, I'm very concerned as a Lakers fan. That Lakers team barely squeaked by a Clippers team that didn't have Landry Shamet at all up until that game. Who else was there? Pat Bev, that was his first game there. And I'm feeling like there's somebody else I'm missing that played. Oh, Zubac played. And that was their first games. They didn't even get any exhibition games like the whole Lakers team did. Those three guys didn't even get any exhibition games, and they played awful. And those are key players for that Clippers team. And guess what? They're missing their closer in that game. If Lou Will was in that game, game would have been over. Lou Will when the Clippers were up, Lou Will would have went to town on whoever he was. Probably, I guess that would have been maybe J.R. Smith, KCP, whoever was playing in there. Lou Will would have went to town on them, just scoring bucket after bucket, and the Clippers would have had a big lead. And if you add Montrezl Harrell into the mix, his toughness down low could have got maybe Davis or LeBron in foul trouble, and then he probably would have gotten that rebound out there in front of LeBron, and that putback wouldn't have been an option because for some reason the tallest guy on the court was PP for the Clippers, and he's only 6'8". LeBron and AD are both over 6'8". So you're gonna have a small ball lineup there at the end of the game. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think that was very poor coaching by Doc Rivers, and I think if Harrell and Lou Williams do come back and play in a playoff series, the Lakers should be very, very, very scared because that Clippers team played very well last night, and they were missing some key players.
They shouldn't be scared.
They should absolutely be scared.
You keep saying, well, if Clippers didn't have A, B, and C, or the Clippers didn't do that, yeah. Well, if Notorious B.I.G. was still alive, he'd be at the top of the charts.
Okay,
it could have, should have,
these
would have.
players will play. I'm telling you, by the time they play in the Western Conference Finals, when they'd meet, the Clippers would win that series if they have those players there.
Okay, and the Lakers will be ready.
If you're basing it off that, they won't be ready if they're playing. If they show up like that, they're going to be in trouble.
No, well, they're not going to show up like that because they're going to watch more film and they're going to get back and say, "Hey, look, we got Lou Will back. We got, all these guys back. How can we prepare for it?" And they're going to look back at the games before the season got canceled. They're going to look at all those and they're going to
the ones the Clippers beat them in.
They beat them in one game.
Two of them. They beat them the first two games.
One or two,
and
whatever.
On Christmas Day, and they only lost the third one because Avery Bradley decided to go off for 28 points. Who's not in the tournament now, so you don't even have to worry about Avery Bradley.
These are just excuses.
They're not excuses. They're real concerns. They're real concerns for Lakers fans. Lakers fans should be very concerned after watching that game. It was a good win, But man, I'm concerned if I'm a Lakers fan.
I think you're just making excuses. I think you just everyone like you, all these Bron haters just nitpick at every little thing Bron does wrong, or whatever is wrong with the Lakers, or whatever is wrong with the
Yeah,
Cavs.
his terrible field goal percentage yesterday. Not scoring a point till the second quarter, going the whole first quarter scoreless.
Still a damn near triple double.
Yep.
So what? I mean, they still
He wasn't efficient from the
he
floor.
still hit the game winner, and he was still playing amazing defense in the fourth.
And people like you are going to say, "Oh, it won't matter next game because LeBron's going to drop 30 on the Clippers in that series."
But you will.
LeBron scored 26 and less than 25 in every other game against the Clippers so far. So to say he had a bad game against the Clippers, that's closer to an average game for LeBron against the Clippers, because that's been almost what his scoreline's been every game against the Clippers. So it's not people say it's a bad game for LeBron. That wasn't a bad game. That's almost been an average game for him against the Clippers this year. He just hasn't played well because he has Paul George and Kawhi Leonard guarding him, who are good defenders. Whether you like it or not, any player that goes up against the Clippers is going to not have their best game when you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George guarding you out on the wing.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, I think LeBron will probably come back and drop 30, and I think LeBron will play even better than he did, which is hard to do because he played so well yesterday.
He didn't play well yesterday. Even LeBron fans would say he didn't play that well yesterday because, yes, he showed up at the end of the fourth quarter, but he was very inconsistent throughout the whole game.
He showed up when it mattered.
He didn't shoot well.
He showed up when it mattered.
How does teammate do when he showed up when it mattered? You know how many points Anthony Davis had in the fourth quarter?
How many?
2. You know how he got those 2 points? Free throws. He didn't even make a field goal in the fourth quarter because AD always doesn't show up in big games. He never shows up in big games.
I guarantee you, if Harden did that with Anthony Davis's 34, let's say Harden drops 34, you'd be like, "Oh, we still at 34."
No, because James Harden doesn't just choke and go away in the fourth quarter
like
that and win. No, because he doesn't have a second star to rely on that. You don't have a second star like that. He just relied on LeBron like that. So what happens if LeBron misses that shot? And LeBron did miss that shot. He just happened to get the putback because the Clippers didn't have a big guy in there to get the rebound. LeBron was the tallest guy out there underneath the basket, so of course he's going to get the rebound.
All I'm getting out of this is the Clippers didn't have the will. LeBron won and hit a game winner. I'm pissed because I hate LeBron. That's all I'm hearing.
No, as a Lakers fan, you should truly be concerned.
I'm not a Lakers fan.
I'm just saying, not as you. I'm saying Lakers fans out there. They should be concerned after watching that game because you had Anthony Davis score 34 points. He's not going to play much better than he did last night in those first 3 quarters. That's like peak Anthony Davis right there. So he had a good game. You just said apparently LeBron had a good game. I do not believe he did, but you said he had a good game. So how much better do you think they're going to be playing if he had a good game?
A lot better than they did. Come playoff time.
I do not think so. I think Clippers fans should be excited after what they saw.
I don't think they should be.
You're going to be getting Lou Will back, your closer, and you're going to get your physical presence down low in Montrezl Harrell. As much as I hate him, he is a good player, so I can't deny that, and that's a big impact for them not having him there. And Shamet, who's a starter for the Clippers, is not going to shoot that poorly. He just hasn't had the reps because he hasn't been in Orlando, so he's going to improve. Pat Bev hasn't been in there. He played okay, but he could definitely play better if he gets more reps. And Zubac looked terrible out there just because he hasn't had the reps. These guys weren't there in the scrimmages. LeBron played 3 full quarters and other minutes. JR and Dion played a lot of minutes. These Clippers key role players didn't play at all. That was their first real game. First game action at all.
I mean, as much as I wanted the Lakers to win, I do have to give props to Paul George for playing well, for showing up.
Oh, he showed up. He was big.
He showed up every quarter.
Oh, he did.
Showed up all 4. He's like
Anthony Davis.
He looked like prime Paul George.
Playoff Paul's back.
He looked like Indiana Pacer Paul George. I don't know. I can't base it off of one game, but I hope he does this consistently because Paul George is one of my favorite players ever.
I know. Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. I think he's one of my favorite too. But when you're looking at the scrimmage games, he played that well in the scrimmage games too. So I know you have to take them with a grain of salt. Like you can't hype up a scrimmage game, but it's continued into the regular season, and they played the best team in the West, or at least the number 1 ranked team in the West. So it's impressive.
Yeah. So we wish Paul George the best of luck. Let us know what you think about this Lakers team. Let us know what you think about this Clipper team. Let us know what you think about Paul George, this game yesterday. You know,
Mhm.
this was a blessing to have this first game back to be Lakers and Clippers. Hey, I'm Adam Silver. The two teams that are going to play are going to be the two best teams in basketball
Mhm.
for the first game back. So shout out to Adam Silver once again. The next thing we wanted to talk about is, leading with the Lakers and leading with this LeBron discussion is LeBron said, Justin, when LeBron does his whole zero dark 30 thing, turns off all social media for the playoffs.
No, that's not what he does. He turns off his cell phone for the entire
Turns off his
playoffs.
cell phone. My apologies.
Mhm.
But he said he's going to give that up. Now, I don't know if this should even be debated, but do you think that that's going to have an impact on him, just completely turning off his cell phone?
It will not. It's just him playing to the media and giving them an excuse, giving himself an excuse if he loses. It gives them a reason to be like, if Braun fans like yourself will be like, oh, he didn't go zero dark 30,
No.
so now he won't be able to win. Like, it was just another excuse that LeBron's playing to the media in case he loses. Because it's a joke. Do you think he really doesn't do any of that? You think he really just turns off his cell phone and doesn't check anything? And
Yeah.
now because there's no way. You think his wife, his mom, his child needs something, they're not going to be able to get into contact with him and call him. He doesn't turn off his social media, and maybe he'll continue to do that. But if his phone's on, he has the choice. It's up to him. It won't matter if he's in zero dark 30 or not. He chooses whether to go on social media or not. And if he does, good for him. If he looks up, I don't know, First Take or Undisputed or something like that, or even our show, and sees the LeBron hate, like, it's not going to do anything for him. I think this whole thing is just kind of a myth because in zero dark 30, you know how he's done? He's 2-4 in the finals. 2-4. Should be 1-5 if it weren't for the fact that Ray Allen bailed him out.
Shut the fuck.
So I mean,
Shut up. I let the F word. I apologize for letting my language slip.
I don't know, man. It should be 1-for-5. So I really don't think it's that big of a deal anyway, because it doesn't work. It seems for him. It may get him to the playoffs, but it doesn't work for him. He doesn't win with it.
I'm not even gonna rebut it. That's just too ridiculous for me to even. I'm not even gonna give a rebuttal. That's too ridiculous for me to even.
How?
It's just ridiculous.
With facts over feelings?
Because you're nitpicking. That's the whole thing that Bron haters do. They just nitpick.
Well, he's the one that brought up that he's not doing zero dark 30. He wanted to put it to the media. He wanted to feed a line out so that when he loses, it gives him an excuse.
I don't think this
look, he was in the bubble, didn't do zero dark 30. This ring shouldn't count.
I don't think
or if he does win, it will be like LeBron fans will say, "Oh, look at that! He didn't even turn off his phone. He was still able to win."
I don't think LeBron fans are going to do that. And I don't think zero dark 30 is going to affect
fans will
anything.
certainly do it.
I don't think they will. I really don't. I highly doubt that they will. But it's not even worth debating. But if you guys want to let us know what you think about it, do it. I think that's stupid, personally.
It's true. It's a dumb thing to begin with that he does it.
No, I'm just losing brain cells by you bringing up his finals record and determining that because he does the zero dark 30 thing, that makes him lose in the finals. I'm losing brain cells here. I didn't say it
makes him lose. I just said clearly it didn't work for him. If he praises himself on this and prides himself on actually having it work, clearly it's not that effective for him if he's not able to win in the finals with it. That's all.
What about the 2 he won while he was in it?
Congrats, you won 2. You really should have been 1-5.
Should have been 1-5.
He missed the game-winning shot and got a lucky Chris Bosh got a lucky rebound and passed out to Ray Allen, who hit the clutchest shot of all time.
So what are you going to say?
Nothing to do with LeBron.
So what are you going to say? Like, for example, Kevin Durant bailed out Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson with that shot in 2017.
No, but he didn't hit a game-winning shot.
He did
on elimination after he missed it. Steph Curry didn't miss the shot.
He didn't bail out. If you watch LeBron during that overtime and in that fourth quarter, he did very well. It wasn't just because of one shot. It wasn't just because of one shot from Ray Allen.
He missed. He had the game-winning shot, and he actually took it, which I give him props because he always passes up the game-winning shot most of the time. But he actually took it, which I give him props for doing. But he missed it. He missed the shot. And luckily, Chris Bosh got the rebound and gave it to Allen, and he hits the clutchest shot of all time. But, I mean, if it's not for that play that happens after he misses the shot, That's over.
No,
He
but that
loses that
doesn't mean
finals.
Ray Allen decided to just bail him out. But Ray Allen didn't bail him out. They would have
He
found
did. That
another
was
way around that.
there was no time left. If he doesn't hit that shot, the game's over. That was the game-winning shot at basically with less than 5 seconds left.
Bosh could have gotten
They
the
lose
rebound,
that
so
game.
LeBron again, and Bron could have hit that shot. It wasn't just because of Ray Allen's shot.
It was
If you
exactly
saw that
because of Ray
entire
Allen's shot.
performance. Okay, so Jordan got bailed out by John Paxson and Steve Kerr.
There's a difference. Jordan passed it to
Oh,
them.
there's a difference. Oh,
There
okay.
is. He passed it. LeBron missed the shot. He took the shot
Okay.
and missed it. They got an offensive rebound out of it. Jordan brought it up the floor, did a nice crossover, and hit the game-winning shot. Something LeBron doesn't do.
It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
It's true.
I'm moving on because I'm losing brain cells and my blood pressure is going up. What did you think about this Blazers and Grizzlies game?
It was a fantastic basketball game. I was very pleased by it. I mean, personally, I'm a big Blazers guy. I want them to win the 8th seed. I think they will. And watching it was just a good all-around game, close back and forth the whole game. Dame really showed up. I was happy for Nurkic too. Nurkic played out of his mind. He was very good. And we even got Melo playing well in there, hitting those clutch corner threes. Good to see. Little flashbacks to old Melo there. I think he's found his role there as a 3 and he doesn't really play D, but I guess 3 and D without the D type player. But yeah, the Trailblazers looked really well, and if that is the play-in series for the 8th seed, I will be very happy because that was a good game, and if those games stay like that, as close as that was, I think that would be a very good series to watch.
Mm-hmm. I'm very impressed with Melo this season because I thought he was very egotistical. I thought he was stuck in 2009. I think but the fact that he knows his role in Portland, he knows that he's just a role player. He's not going to be the big star like he was in New York or Denver. He knows his role. He knows that that this Blazers team is all Dame and CJ.
Yeah.
So I got to give.
CJ went off.
Yeah, CJ did go off, and I'm very proud of him.
Fantastic game.
I say proud like I'm his father or something, but I'm very impressed with what I saw from him. Melo had 21-7. Got to give him props. Yusuf Nurkic came through, 18 points. CJ McCollum 30, like you said, 33, 6 and 3. Damian Lillard with 29, 9 and 5. Yeah, how about this Gary Trent Jr. guy coming through? He had a very good impact. He had a very good impact.
Game.
Nice young stud. Very good. So I got to give him props. But yeah, this game was bigger than I think a lot of people are going to expect because I think the Blazers and the Grizzlies are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. And the fact that the Blazers won over them, I think that's huge because it's this game's going to matter. It might not matter, 8 games along the way, but I think now this is I think this was a huge game for Portland and for both teams.
It sets the tone. It sets the tone that Portland is definitely in this. They can do it. They just beat them. They know they can do it now, and it gives them a ton of momentum for the next 7 games here. That they know they can do this, and I think it was huge too because it's basically a 2-game swing because you gain the game. Well, you don't gain 2, but you gain the game off of the fact that you won a game, and then they lost the game, so it's like 2 games almost there. So it was just big overall because that really helps because a loss for them would have been huge because if they lose that game, that's another game down that they would have been. So
exactly.
And it puts, again, the Trailblazers lost. Did the Kings play yet? I know the Kings.
I don't believe so. I don't think they
played.
The
Kings
yet.
Are in between, so it goes. Memphis has the 8, then it's 9s. I think they're 3.5 now. Is Portland, then 10 Sacramento, and then New Orleans fell to 11 because of that loss. So it'll be an interesting race to watch. I think Portland gets it, though. I think Portland will take the 8th seed in the West, and they'll give the Lakers trouble.
And I think by the time this is uploaded, Sacramento will play. But one thing I did want to mention, do you remember, I believe it was either 2013 or 2014. In the West, the race was against Phoenix and Memphis. And it came down to the last game of the season where the Suns and the Grizzlies did play. And the Grizzlies, so it's kind of like this same scenario.
Yep.
2 teams playing each other. That's how important I think that this game was for the Blazers. So
It's huge because now they put themselves ahead of the Grizzlies. I mean, they gain a game on the Grizzlies, and it puts them a game ahead of the Pelicans, who are fighting for that ninth seed to be in the play-in series. I guess it would be because they'd have to win 2 games, but it gives them an advantage over the Pelicans, maybe even the Kings if the Kings lose, and they gain a game on the Grizzlies. So it's a big win for them.
absolutely. Another big game that we did want to talk about is tonight. So the day that we're recording this is July 31st, on a Friday. So tonight for us, well, by the time this is up, it'll be probably a day after, I believe.
Right now, Sacramento is down 16 points to the Spurs.
Okay, so right now the Kings are playing and they're losing against the Spurs. But tonight for us, the Mavs and the Rockets play, and that's a big game, very big game.
Do.
And Justin, you have a crap stain on your shirt right there.
Yeah,
that number
James
13.
Harden, Houston Rockets.
So, what are your thoughts? What are your predictions for this game?
It's gonna be a good game. Interested to see how Kristaps plays against this small ball lineup. I think that's the biggest kind of X factor here. I'm curious how he will do because some big guys can't handle a small ball lineup and they do struggle against it. So I'm curious how it will work, and if the Dallas Mavericks will have to move to the lineup to kind of counter this small ball lineup, and maybe Kristaps isn't out there playing, or maybe he has to move him to the 5, not the 4, because of how they're playing. It'll be interesting. Does Boban get into the game and play? Because Boban would certainly struggle in a small ball matchup against the Rockets because he will struggle getting up and down the court. So there's a lot of cool storylines in this. I'm curious to see how Harden's done because Harden has played excellent in the preseason. But again, it's preseason, so how much can you really take out of it? So it'll be interesting to see how he actually plays in a meaningful game. Westbrook has looked he's played well, but he's looked a little almost out of shape-ish, I should say. Like he's just not giving it 110% in the preseason like he normally does. So I'm curious to see if that's maybe him out of shape or what it is, if it will lead to him flipping a switch now that the regular season is here. So it'll be good to watch. I watched the Mavericks play the Sixers in the preseason there, and it was a good game between the two of them, and they didn't have Embiid. So I would have expected the Mavericks to kind of control more out of it. I thought they would have dominated us without Embiid, but they didn't. So that makes me a little worried. But then again, it's preseason, so how much can you take out of it? If I had to go with anything, I'd pick the Rockets tonight. I think they could have the win.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember last time the Rockets played the Mavericks, I believe it was January 31st, and I think the Rockets won by 7, 128 to 121.
That was before the small ball lineup, though.
That was before the small ball lineup. That was before they traded Clint Capella. So I think as much crap as I give the Rockets, I think either the small ball lineup tonight with Kristaps and Boban and all their slow guys, they're slow big men, it's either going to go really, 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 really well, or it's going to be super atrocious.
Yep.
And I'm kind of leaning towards it's going to go really, really well because, you have Russell Westbrook who likes to drive in. You have James Harden who drives in quite a lot. But I think once, they have to rely on their perimeter defense, I think that's where they're definitely going to struggle. So I think, honestly, the team that scores the most points is probably going to win the game. That's a hot take.
Good take.
That's a hot take, but that's what I think personally.
I have to disagree with you on that one.
Okay. We have a fun time here on Teed Up. But I'm gonna give the slight edge to the Mavericks. I think Luka. I think Luka's gonna go off. I think Kristaps is gonna go off in the paint with that small ball lineup. I'm expecting Kristaps to have like a 15 point, 11 rebound type of game if he stays in the paint, because I don't think the Rockets can guard in the paint, obviously, because their center's PJ Tucker. So, but it'll be a close game. I think it's going to probably go 118, 115 Mavericks. I mean, you looked at the betting line earlier. It was +1?
It was Rockets are +1, so they are the underdogs entering the game, and the over/under was set at 231, I believe.
So yeah, it's still a very even on the betting line, it's very close. So
definitely,
yeah,
it should be a very good game.
Should be a very good game. I'm looking forward to watching that. Absolutely. But that whole conversation, I already know your answer, but I guess I'll just ask you, who would you rather have right now on your team? Who do you think is more valuable to their team, Harden or Luka?
I'm gonna have to go with James Harden. Shocker, I know, right?
I'm going to have to go with James Harden wearing the jersey.
Yeah. I think James Harden is the better player. I think he gets a lot of hate out there, but you got to give him credit. The fact that he has kind of revolutionized the game of basketball to the point where the step back jumper is now the step back jumper has always been a thing, but it has now become used a lot more once James Harden started using it. It's become a lot more, it's evolved into a more go-to play than it has been in the past. And I think that you got to credit James Harden on that. And just the way he's able to draw the fouls and get to the foul line. I know people don't like it, but you have to admit it's good basketball IQ. Like, it's a smart play when you can do that. And we've seen other guys adapt it to it, like a Joel Embiid, who's done it a lot for us, and with the Philadelphia 76ers, he's done it. And I think it gets in people's heads, and it just kind of throws him off, and then he's able to kind of create his own shot off of it. I think just his all-around game is just better than Luka's. I think Luka plays a little better defense, although his defense isn't great either. He probably plays better defense. It's also bigger, so that helps him. But, I mean, James Harden has scored over 30 points per game the past, 4 years now, I believe it is? 3-4 years? That's incredible. I mean, he is the time scoring champ in basketball. I'm going to take the guy that can do it all on offense, because if I'm building a team right now, I think he's the better fit. And you can build a team around him to have better success than you can Luka. I think Luka's an all-around player, and you can he can kind of fit with anyone. Meanwhile, Harden, if you build around him perfectly, I think that team's unstoppable, because he's just that good of a one-on-one ISO player. And if you get the right three-point shooters with the height out there, you could have a very, very good basketball team. And I think he is just a better player than Luka Doncic is right now. I think Luka could become better in a couple years, but it would take him 3 or 4 years to pass James Harden. James Harden is just flat out the better player right now. And honestly, I don't even think it's that close. I think James Harden's a top 5 player in basketball right now. Obviously, Curry's not playing, KD's out, but I think Harden's a top 5 player, and I do not think Luka is.
Here's my thing. Is James Harden a good scorer?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no
best scorer in the league outside of him and Kevin Durant. I'd say right now he is the best scorer in basketball, just because KD's not healthy. I think him and KD are like 1A and 1B when it comes to scoring, though.
When healthy, it's Kevin Durant. There's no question in my mind, because KD is one of the greatest scorers ever, like in NBA history.
He's taller than Harden, so it helps him.
It does.
Like he can take on centers and score inside on them, where Harden would struggle because he's smaller.
It does. But is Harden a good scorer? Yes. Is Harden a good all-around player? I would have to disagree. And that's where I kind of bring Luka's play into that, because Luka's beating him in rebounds. Luka's beating him in assists.
Luka's taller, so he should be getting more rebounds.
Right, but Luka's still beating him in assists. I think Luka's a better all-around player than James Harden. I think James Harden's a better scorer, and obviously you see that. But I think I think you can build a team around Luka better than you can James Harden, because I don't think James Harden can play with anybody else. I don't think he can play with a second star like Luka can. And I know what you're going to say. Well, they do worse when Luka's off. When they do better when Luka's on the floor. But when Luka's on the floor, is on and off percentage is plus 6.5.
Mm-hmm. But they were a 500 team without Luka Doncic on the court, and without James Harden, that Rockets team isn't going 500. Maybe they could win a couple games, but they're not going to go 500. And they're certainly not going into Milwaukee and beating Milwaukee like Dallas Mavericks did without Luka Doncic. So it's a good debate, because I think they're both very good players. But at this point in their careers, Luka's just too young, and he's not experienced enough. He hasn't done anything in the playoffs. He's never been there. I have to take James Harden. I think James Harden's the better scorer. And honestly, that's all I care about, because when you are the best scorer in basketball, you can build a team around that. You can build a team to have success. And I think the Rockets have actually done that. The only difference is if you can switch out, it's going to sound funny because Kristaps is on the Mavericks, but if you could put Kristaps on that team instead of PJ Tucker, I think that team would be the best team in basketball, without a doubt. If you gave me a lineup of James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Robert Covington, Eric Gordon, and Kristaps Porzingis, I think that would be the best team in basketball. It would certainly be the best starting five.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there would definitely be some problems with, because there's only one basketball. But they would definitely be, probably top 3 in their conference, probably top 3 in the West, no doubt.
Well, the difference is they have the small ball lineup, and I get why they have it because they want to spread the floor when Harden and Westbrook are in ISO. But you still need that height, and that's what they're lacking. So if they get a guy that can shoot and play some defense and is tall like Kristaps over PJ Tucker and slide PJ Tucker to the bench, I think that'd be a big difference. I think that would be a huge help for the Rockets. I think that would truly make them the best team in basketball with the Bucks and Lakers and Clippers.
I
I
still
think that
think
would put them up on that tier with them because I think they're on the second tier below them with like the Raptors, Sixers, Celtics. I think they're down there, but I think if they switch for like a player like Kristaps and PJ Tucker, if they switch that, I think the Houston Rockets would be a elite team in basketball at that top tier.
I still think the Rockets need a center because when they have to go up against, Kristaps Porzingis, Yusuf
Yeah, but if they
Nurkic,
get a Kristaps,
Nikola
they would be
Jokic. Right, but they don't have that right now.
there. They have PJ Tucker.
They have PJ Tucker, who's 6'8", and only cares about what shoes he's wearing.
Now he's a good player. You can't knock him. He's a
No,
good
I
player
know
for
he's a
his size.
solid
He's a
player, but
solid player. He's nothing special, but he's a good player. Like he's an average player that can shoot, defend. He's a very good hustler. It's gritty, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Of the height.
yeah. So good debate. That's probably the most civil James Harden debate we've ever had, honestly. So let us know what you think. Who in your mind, who's better, Luka or James Harden? Me personally, I think all around. When we're talking about all around, who's the better player? I think I would go with James Harden, but all around, like when I'm taking shooting, I'm taking fundamentals, I'm taking, the little things into effect. I'm probably going to go with Luka. So, but that's just me. But let us know.
I would disagree. I think it's James Harden, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so enough with the West. We keep talking about the West. Let's move out of this. Let's move to the East Coast, Beast Coast.
Yes.
The Bucks, they're the best team in the East on paper. Just get that out of the way. On paper, by their record, they're the best team in the East. Does that mean they are the best team in the East? No. We have to go with a certain team from a certain town that starts with P and ends with Adelphia as my pick. But no, I'm kidding. But the Bucks are under a lot of pressure.
Fair.
And they have a lot of threats in the East. So Justin, in your mind, who do you think is the biggest threat to the Bucks in the Eastern Conference when they have to play this?
I like what you said with the pressure thing because I think there's a lot of pressure on Giannis to finally make it to the finals, and he has choked in the past. So I agree with you on that. I think they do have a lot of pressure. And honestly, I don't see them coming out of the East. My prediction right now is the Philadelphia 76ers to get there. I know it seems a little biased, but that is my prediction. And I think they are the biggest threat just based off of they have the size, the speed. They don't quite have the shooting, but they have the capability to defend Giannis. They're the one team that can truly do it between Horford, Embiid, and Simmons. I think they can slow down Giannis to the point where he becomes not as effective as what he is now. He would not play at his MVP level like he's been playing. So I think the Sixers are the biggest threat to them just based off of matchup. And I think the Sixers actually do come out of the East because I think they're likely going to get the Heat in the first round. I think Embiid and Simmons will want to show out for that series because they want to stop Butler. And I think they'd move on to play the Bucks in the second round, assuming they have a fourth or fifth seed, which I'm guessing they will. They play the Bucks, who would beat the 8th seed, because they'd be the 1. And I think they match up well against the Bucks. I think they would be able to beat them. And then from there, I think they would play the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they just out rebound and out strength and out muscle and just are a better basketball team than the Boston Celtics. So I think they would beat them too. I think they'd come out of the Eastern Conference. That's my pick right now. But yeah, I think there's a lot of threats to the Bucks, and I do not, even if the Sixers don't make it, I think other teams can knock off the Bucks. I don't think the Bucks are this wonder team that can't be stopped. That people
They're not a powerhouse.
Because Giannis has yet to prove that he can carry a team to the playoffs. I mean, past the playoffs to the finals. He hasn't been able to show that. He consistently loses second round or Eastern Conference Finals. He has not prevailed yet. So until I see that, I'm not going to pick the Bucks because I'm going to go with history and say history is going to repeat itself and he's not going to get there.
Right, and I'm not sure how confident I am in Giannis yet with the playoffs because obviously you've seen him play. You know, I'm going to date this all the way back to 2018. Because in my opinion, I think his Bucks team should have beaten that Celtics team because there was no Kyrie Irving, and that team probably shouldn't have gone as far as they went. But I think the Bucks should have stopped them, and I think the Giannis should have stopped them. But I don't know if this is a bold prediction or a hot take. Call it what you will. But I think Miami is probably going to upset Milwaukee in the playoffs. I just think Miami has a better built team.
I agree with that. I think Miami is a big issue for them, but I don't think Miami gets to them. I think Miami can't get past Philadelphia, and I'm assuming that's the matchup. I don't think Miami gets past Philadelphia, so I don't think they can upset the Bucks. That's why I went with the Sixers, but I do agree with you there. I think the Miami Heat cause a lot of trouble for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Miami could honestly make it to the finals, in my opinion. I think Miami could make it to the final. I think they could if they win early in a series against the Sixers. I think they could easily pull it off, and I think they could get to the finals. And that would be a very interesting finals, by the way, because let's say it's the Lakers and Heat. That's going to be very interesting because a lot of Heat fans might want to beat LeBron in that finals.
It would be interesting if LeBron had to travel to Miami and play it. The
That
fact
would
that it's
be.
in the bubble kind of takes a little bit out of it. Because if he was playing in Miami, that would definitely be like a matchup. But the fact that it's in the bubble, it would be a great matchup on social media because you get to see the fans versus LeBron on social media, but you wouldn't get to see it in person. I think the in-person effect would actually do a lot in that game. So the Lakers traveling to Miami would be a lot on LeBron, and I think that may get in his head a little bit, and I think that would cause some trouble for him. So I agree with you on that. The bubble thing is just a shame for that situation.
It's a shame. I mean, I'm all for it, but it is a shame in circumstances like that. But here's the thing,
Hopefully
too.
it doesn't happen. Hopefully that's next year's matchups. That way they can travel to Miami.
Absolutely. But here's the thing, though. Say what you want about LeBron. If he goes to your city, beats or wins a chip, wins back-to-back chips for that matter, for your team, leaves your team, and then comes back, plays your team in the finals and beats your team. Say what you want about LeBron, but that would be some ghost stuff right there. That would be some legendary stuff right there.
Well, here's the thing. This is the big storyline. I think, can LeBron be the first player to win 3 championships and 3 finals MVPs for 3 different teams? That's the real question, in my opinion, because Kawhi Leonard is also chasing him for that. I think if Kawhi Leonard beats him to it, that's not something he can claim when you talk about him as the GOAT. You can't say LeBron was the first person to do it. So I think that's a big thing because I think that's why this Western Conference Finals is so big, because I think whoever comes out of the West will win the championship. So I think whoever, if it's the Lakers, I think they'll move on to the championship and win, and LeBron will get Finals MVP. But I think if it's the Clippers, they'll move on to the finals and they'll win, and Kawhi would be Finals MVP, so he would be the first to achieve that. So I think it adds a little pressure to LeBron in the Western Conference Finals there.
Do you think this just popped into my head? Let's say last summer, Kawhi signed with the Lakers, and Kawhi, LeBron with the Lakers went on to win a chip. Would you put that on Bron's resume as the first player to win with 3 different teams? Like, would you say, oh, well, Kawhi did it or LeBron? You know what I'm saying?
That'd be tough. I'd give it to whoever wins the Finals MVP.
I respect that.
I think whoever plays better gets it. I mean, that would just be simple, I think, but that's the only way you can decide it.
Yeah. I think definitely, and I think that would honestly be questionable for who would win the Finals MVP.
It'd be good. I mean, I would say they'd win the championship, but who knows? Maybe it's Anthony Davis that wins it. You never know. Maybe Anthony Davis is the one that balled out, and neither of them get it then. So
True.
It'd be an interesting situation. You'd have to see how it plays out. But yeah, it's a good question.
Very true.
Good what if.
Very true. But yeah, as far as the The Bucks. I don't think I even answered that question. The biggest threat to the Bucks in the East, in my opinion, is probably Miami. Definitely, Philadelphia's up there,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I really don't see. I really don't see the Bucks making it to the finals, and I think that's. I've said this before. I think that's what's holding Giannis back from being like up here with everyone, like
Mm-hmm.
such as LeBron and Kawhi and Curry and KD. And I think he's
Mm-hmm.
just a tier below due to the fact that he can't make to at least the finals, let alone
And
win a
see,
ring.
here's the thing I don't get. Everyone loves to obsess over Giannis and say how good he is, but Harden resembles the same type of player to me. He gets to the free throw line a lot, has a good IQ, but he's never really done anything in the postseason. But notice how the hate is all directed to Harden, and Giannis gets like no hate. Everyone just loves Giannis, and I think it annoys me in that situation because I think Harden and Giannis are a lot more similar than any other people like realize. Their games are built to not really have a second star with them. They're meant to be the solo star on their team and have a team built around them. And I think they're just that good of a player that they are elite and should be in the top category as best players. And people don't really put Harden there, but I think Harden's a lot similar to Giannis. And I think if either one of them win a championship this year, I think they have to be in the top three conversation, like elite player when healthy, when everybody's healthy. I think if Harden's Rockets win this year, I think you got to put Harden up there at the top. And if Giannis's Bucks win, I think Giannis has to be right up there in the top, even though people already been there.
No, I wouldn't dispute that fact at all. No. Do you have anything else to add? I mean, we got 3 minutes before this Rockets game starts.
No, not really.
I'm
I'm
just
just excited for the game.
I'm just hyped to watch this game. So we're gonna take off. We're gonna watch this game. We're gonna break it down for you once it's done. So the day after this game, we're gonna break it down for you, and we're gonna let you know what we think. Hopefully, Luka and company wins because you know me, I don't like James Harden.
Nah, it's gonna be the Rockets, but maybe we'll place a little friendly wager on it.
I'm sure we will.
You wanna maybe like a iced tea or something? You like iced tea?
Wawa hoagie.
Wawa hoagie? Okay, that works.
I'm willing to put a hoagie on it.
Cool, that works.
Let's do it.
Sounds good to
Let's
me.
do it. Let's do it. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. We hope you enjoy. We hope you enjoy, just basketball being back in general. It's a good time right now. Definitely a good time for the league. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.